Hi everyone, it's Miss O'Donnell. So today we're going to do a little bit more with equation of a circle. So yesterday we learned what the equation of a circle was. So we know that the equation is r squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, where r represents the radius and h comma k represents the center. So first thing you had to do was figure out what is your radius and your center. So looking at our circle, our center is negative 2, 1, and our radius, if we were to count from the center out to a point on the circle, we would get 5. Then we plug those into our formula. So for r, we're going to plug in 5, and for h, we're going to plug in negative 2, and k, we're going to plug in 1. So we get 5 squared equals x minus negative 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared. Then when we simplify, 5 squared is 5 times 5 equals 25, and a minus negative is going to turn into a plus. So our final equation for this circle is 25 equals x plus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared. So what we're going to talk about today is working backwards. So I'm going to give you the equation of a circle, and you're going to have to tell me some information about my circle, specifically what is the radius and what is the center. So here I have the equation 64 equals x minus 5 squared plus y minus 2 squared. Now I want to figure out what is the radius and what is the center. So first thing you want to do is write down our formula underneath our equation. So we've got 64 equals x minus 5 squared plus y minus 2 squared has to match up with r squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. So let's start with radius. Radius is represented by the letter r, so first thing I'm going to do is find out where in the equation is our r. So it's right here. So r squared matches up with 64. They're in the same position in our formula. So we know that r squared equals 64. So we want to solve for just r. In order to get rid of that squared, we want to square root both sides. So the square root of r squared is r, and the square root of 64 is 8. So we know that our radius is 8. Then we need to find our center. So finding the center is a little bit trickier. We know that it's represented by h comma k. So first thing we're going to do is find them in our equation. So here's our h and here's our k. The thing you got to notice is that in front of h and k is a minus sign. Minus kind of means the same as opposite. So the big trick here is that the numbers are always going to be the opposite of what they are in the equation. So what that means is if we have x minus 5, h is going to be the opposite of negative 5. So it's going to be positive 5. The k is going to be the same as the opposite of minus 2. So the opposite of minus 2 is positive 2. So the center of this circle is positive 5, positive 2, even though there are minuses in front of them in the equation. So the hint is always put the opposite sign. Right now we have minus 5 and minus 2. So our center is going to be positive 5 and positive 2. All right, so when I give you an equation, such as 64 equals x minus 5 squared plus y minus 2 squared, you square root where the r is. So we square rooted 64 and got 8. Then we took the opposite signs of our h and k. So we got our center went from negative 5, negative 2 to positive 5, positive 2. All right, so let's go through an example. So I'm going to give you 100 equals x plus 3 squared plus y squared. So first thing we do is write down our formula underneath our equation. All right, for our radius, we want to find the r. We know that r squared matches up with 100, so r squared equals 100. To get rid of the squared, we're going to square root both sides. R equals 10. So the radius for this circle is 10. Then we want to look for our center, which is h comma k. So first let's look at h. Where the h is a positive 3. So we want to take the opposite of positive 3. So our h is going to be negative 3. Now let's look at our y. There's nothing in the k spot. So we've got y squared when we want y minus k squared. So there's nothing where k is. So we got to think what number represents nothing. That's going to be 0. So if you ever don't have an h or a k, you just have x squared or y squared, that means that number is represented by 0. So our center is negative 3, 0. All right, so here's another example you can try on your own. Solve for the radius and the center. All right, so there are going to be ways that I can trick you. I'm going to go over just one of them, but there are other ways. So I could put the equation in the wrong order. So here's an example of an equation, 36 equals y minus 7 squared plus x minus 2 squared. And when you first look at it, it looks like the equation of a circle. But if I stick my formula underneath it, you should notice one big red flag. The x's and the y's aren't matching up. All right, so I switched the order of my x's and my y's. So what you want to do is rewrite it. So rewrite the equation so it matches up with our formula. So I just switched my x minus 2 squared and my y minus 7 squared. So now they're in the right spots. So now I can find my center and my radius. My radius is going to be the square root of 36, which is 6. My center is going to be the opposite of minus 2 and minus 7. So my radius is 6. My center is positive 2, positive 7. All right, I could switch it up even more. And now if I put my formula down, I've got some extra stuff. I've got this minus 5, which doesn't match up with my formula. So what I want to do is I want to get that on the other side. I want to get rid of it. So to move that minus 5 over, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So 20 plus 5 is 25. Minus 5 plus 5 gets rid of that. So now this looks like a regular equation of a circle. So to get my radius, I take the square root of 25 and get 5. To get my center, I take the opposite of minus 4 plus 8. My center is going to be positive 4, negative 8. So here's another example you can try. All right, so how are we feeling? So we know how to write our equation. We find our radius and our center. We plug them into our formula. And now to go backwards, to find our radius, we look at where the r is supposed to be. We take the square root of that number. We look for where our center is supposed to be, and we take the opposite signs. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me, or you can join me for office hours. If you need more resources or help figuring this out, send me an email. I'll send you some videos or some extra practice problems.